Hey everybody, it's Party Elite with another episode of Total Breakdown. We've got a battle from the previous Dogs of War on show today. This is a competitive tournament hosted by Ninjahund, and in this particular battle we see Asgair lead his Wood Elves into battle against KetoGenicCreamPie's Bretonnia. Remember guys, if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to this channel for more Total War content, and check out the Discord link in the description below to join in on the fun outside the battlefield. Now, on to the battle. The Wood Elves come in with the Glade Lord in charge, alongside a Spellsinger of Life. 5 units of Eternal Guard with shields can hold their ground, fend off cavalry as well as armored units, and negate a fair amount of incoming missile fire from peasant bowmen and mounted yeoman archers. 4 units of War Dancers with Asurai's Spear are able to hold their grounds as well, and provide some significant protection against enemy cavalry, and the Way Watchers and the Glade Guard with the Starfire Shafts bring in armor-piercing missile fire and some magical and fire damage as well. Finally, the 2 units of Dryads ranked up to rank 1 bring in a decent amount of damage and magical melee attacks as well, which can be quite helpful against a unit like the Green Knight, for example. Bretonnia comes to the field with the Fey Enchantress in charge, alongside the Green Knight. I personally find it quite risky to bring the Green Knight against the Wood Elves because of the sheer amount of magical ranged output the Wood Elves might bring to the metaphorical table. Then we've got 3 units of Peasant Mob to soak up some early fire and add some bulk to the army, with 3 units of Spearmen at Arms available to protect the army from incoming large enemy units. 2 units of Battle Pilgrims bring a decent amount of damage output alongside an immunity to potential fear and terror, and the Grail Relicate provides a much needed leadership boost as well as that same ability to resist psychological effects to units around it. 2 units of Foot Squires provide support to the front lines, and 2 units of Peasant Bowmen with fire arrows can bring down any tree units with ease. Finally, a unit of Mounted Yeomen adds some numbers to the cavalry to help chase down ranged units, and 2 units of Grail Knights bring in a great deal of anti-large strength that can also be used to shut down enemy ranged units as well. Alright, as always, we're going to start with a conversation about layout, and pretty simple here from the Wood Elves. We've got the front line of the Eternal Guard with shields, of course, pretty standard. The Dryads just off to the rear here and to the sides, able to provide support if necessary to the flanks or come in from the sides and the rears themselves to support that front line. Then, of course, right in the middle here, we've got the Way Watchers as well as the Glade Guard with Starfire Shafts, able to fire and move around as necessary. Then back here, providing them some serious protection, the War Dancers with Asurai's Spear. These guys, again, if anything comes in from the flanks or the rears, these guys will be able to fend them off. Then, of course, we have the Glade Lord in the air, as well as the Spellsinger of Life, sort of in the center there, able to provide support in terms of healing, etc., to bulks of units, however necessary. So pretty simple there from the Wood Elves. Bretonnia has something a little bit more interesting going on. It's a little strange, to be perfectly honest. We've got a Peasant Bowman unit up front here, and right behind them we've got 2 units of Battle Pilgrims. Then off to the side here we have some more Peasant Mob units, and then way off over here we've got the Spearmen at Arms. We've got some Foot Squires over here, some more Spearmen at Arms over here. So the Spearmen at Arms makes sense, because if anything large comes in, you want to be able to fend it off. If something's coming in from the sides, you want to be able to protect the flanks. The Peasant Mob placement is a little strange. Usually, and for good reason, the Peasant Mob are kept in the front to soak up a lot of fire. That's sort of how you treat your fodder troops, to soak up fire. So a little strange to do that. Putting the Battle Pilgrims in front of these 2 units is a good move because they've got shields, so they can soak up a lot of damage as well. But one of these units is a Spearman at Arms unit, and one is a Foot Squires. It would have been a good idea to keep both Foot Squires back here, and then sort of dive in to provide support wherever necessary, and have the Spearman at Arms, again, sort of over here to come in from the flanks or protect the flanks. So very strange with the infantry placement there. Then we've got the Peasant Bowmen back here with their fire arrows, of course, to the rear, able to open fire, and kept a little bit apart so that if any cavalry comes charging in, they can't both be taken out at the same time. So that's good. That's a good move. Then we've got our Mounted Yeomen as well as our units of Grail Knights. Mounted Yeomen up front just by a little bit, not really necessary. Usually it's a good idea to Vanguard deploy. If you suspect some sneaky play, you can get some scouts off, but they're just put ahead over there. Then we've got the Grail Knights to the rear over here, again able to quickly respond to any incoming flanking maneuvers. They are anti-large, so of course very helpful in that regard. Now, you may have noticed I did have some trouble describing the layout over here, because largely I don't entirely think this is the best way to lay out the army at hand. I think the plan here was just to gain some width and then hopefully get a surround on the enemy Wood Elf army. That's the best guess I can sort of make with this layout. It can definitely be more efficient, but I mean, we'll see how this all goes down. Now you will notice also the balance of power is already very heavily against the Wood Elves, so it's an unfortunate start to the battle. They are on the back foot, but the first thing they do is send the Glade Lord up ahead and start taking shots at the Green Knight. And this is actually going to force Bretonnia to move forward, because the Glade Lord can stand there out of range of the Peasant Bowman, opening fire at the Green Knight all day long, and you'll see it does a decent amount of damage, of course, because the Glade Lord does shoot magical ammunition. So a decent amount of damage going in. Bretonnia pushes forward just a little bit, and you'll see the Peasant Bowmen open off their first shots. The first volley goes off, and a decent amount of damage done to the Glade Lord, of course. So pulling the Glade Lord back as Bretonnia pushes forward. Meanwhile, the Wood Elves as well, pushing forward ever so slightly, just marching forward, preserving their vigor, of course. And you'll see here the Glade Lord just out of range of the Peasant Bowman. These guys are forced to give chase, turns around, and then is able to open fire on the Green Knight once again, and again doing a lot of damage before lines are able to meet, and again pulling away from that Peasant Bowman fire, and just sort of, I guess, kiting in many ways, trying to get that Green Knight taken care of nice and early. Now, you'll see over here, Bretonnia moving forward, standard play. Of course, the Way Watchers and the Glade Guard with Starfire Shafts open fire. It seems like they're trying to take care of the peasant mob nice and early, don't want to get bogged down by fodder troops. So these guys already willing to give up in that second or third volley, basically taking care of them. And then focusing now, let's slow it down for a second. Focusing later on some of these other units. Now, as the Glade Lord sort of flies across the battlefield, you'll see the Peasant Bowmen continue to open shots off at a moving, flying target. It's a good idea to try and take out your enemy's leadership nice and early, but a moving flying target is going to be hard to hit, especially as Peasant Bowmen, so not necessarily the best call there. Now, as the charges go in, I do want to say, now I try to avoid mentioning the same sort of mistakes over and over again, but this is a very important sort of bad decision here. It's pretty clear, I'm making a guess here, of course, but it looks like the Bretonnian army has been locked into a group, a hard group, and has been sent in to attack the front lines. You'll see everyone is pushing in and curving in from the front towards the Wood Elf front line. And I've said it countless times, I'm going to say it one more time, it leads to clumping like this. And you never want your army to clump up like that, because that just reduces the efficiency significantly. What would be much better is to actually pull some of these units that were already off to the flank, to just pull them around and come in from the rear, or better off, engage, well, maybe not these War Dancers with Asrai Spear, because apart from the Foot Squires, I don't think anything can take care of these guys, but engage, from the rear, from the sides, cause some morale damage, and get some more damage per second in. Very important. Instead, you get this massive clumping and a waste of numbers, really. Now, on the left over here, because it was largely peasant, that left flank is already falling apart, but the Spearmen at Arms here do get sent in to try and maybe intercept the Way Watchers and the Glade Guard with Starfire Shafts. Unfortunately, they do have to contend with these War Dancers with Asrai Spear, and the War Dancers will take easy care of the Spearmen at Arms. Meanwhile, the Glade Lord is still up in the air here, taking shots off at the Green Knight, and the Green Knight is held in place with the Prey of Anathrema. So good move there, keeping the Green Knight in place, reducing his missile resistance, and then dropping more shots on him with that magical fire from the Glade Lord. Meanwhile, the front line here of the Wood Elves get a little bit of support in the form of Earth Blood, trying to keep them alive, and it's good to get that cast off early, because again, Earth Blood does not bring people back from the dead, it only replenishes living units. Meanwhile, over here on the right flank, you'll see, as the left aggression here already begins to fall apart, as these Spearmen at Arms begin to give up, not really wanting to fight anymore, you'll see on the flank over here, Bretonnia is finally pushing their cavalry up front, and a little bit of, well, a good move here, I have to say. These Spearmen at Arms do get sent in to engage the War Dancers with Asrai Spear. That sort of locks them in place, allowing the Mounted Yeomen and the Grail Knights here to make their round, and over here, same thing, the Grail Knights are able to push out. Unfortunately, those Grail Knights sort of stay stationary. Over here, though, as the Mounted Yeomen and the Grail Knights make their way around the corner, they're able to charge right into the rears of the Glade Guard and the Way Watchers. So you'll see the Mounted Yeomen, of course, don't get a lot of damage in from the charge, but the Grail Knights will do a decent amount of work to these Way Watchers. Now, these War Dancers here with Asrai Spear instantly brought in to respond, of course, and great move, great battlefield awareness there, able to respond to that incoming cavalry charge when these War Dancers weren't able to hold it back. So quick sort of melee taking place over there. Meanwhile, you'll see finally these Grail Knights are pushing in to the rear of these Dryads and the Eternal Guard. So great move there, pulling the cavalry out there and then finally bringing them back in. And you'll see at the same time the Chalice of Potions, the bombardment spell from the Fey Enchantress, or shouldn't really call it a spell, the bombardment ability from the Fey Enchantress, coming down on this massive bulk, this sort of chunky group of Wood Elf units, and you'll see it will do a decent amount of damage. So that charge comes in, does a lot of work, and a lot of damage brought in by the bombardment. So great placement there, great work there, taking care of the right flank, or the left flank as seen from the Wood Elf perspective, where the peasant mob failed. Now back here you'll see as well again the Wood Elf units do get a little bit of help from Earthblood, and the mounted yeomen were very quickly taken care of course, with the War Dancers with the Aserai Spear, but the Grail Knights were able to push forward away from this bulk here and actually charge into the rears of these Eternal Guards and these War Dancers with the Aserai Spear. So great move there, engaging the Way Watchers and the Glade Guard, and then of course the mounted yeomen not pulled away quickly enough. They are a weak unit as far as cavalry goes, but the Grail Knights, well played there, pushing them into the front line, doing a decent amount of damage. You'll see a lot of morale damage and physical damage, so great play there. But they get stuck in combat, and that is a big mistake. At the end of the day, spearmen, of course, the spears point in the direction that they're safest. So when the Grail Knights come charging in from the rear, the spears don't do anything. But over time, the spearmen are going to turn around and they're going to start stabbing at your horses. The Grail Knights need to be pulled away ASAP to keep them alive, and you'll see they're taking a lot of damage very quickly. So good thinking there, great play pushing into the rear of the front line, but just staying there for far too long. Should have pulled away, should have pushed through. Any move would have been a good move. Staying there was, well, no move, and that was a bad move. Now the Green Knight as well, diving into combat here, and the Glade Lord just continuing, just persisting to cause a lot of damage. But Earthblood does go down. Great placement there. A lot of these units are getting a lot of help, and the Green Knight is replenishing a lot of his health as well. So great placement there. He took a lot of damage early on in the battle, as we saw, but he's able to replenish some of that damage. Now you'll see the Grail Knights, the units that the Grail Knights charged into, have already given up on the front lines. They are pulling away. They don't want to stay there anymore. And the mounted yeomen now are being sent in. They can really be used as a cleanup crew. They can cap off this unit of War Dancers, and they can finish off this unit of Way Watchers, or this unit of Eternal Guard. So the mounted yeomen can really come into play here. Meanwhile, the Peasant Bowmen continue to open fire at the Glade Lord, and you'll see with the use of Earthblood and of course Life Bloom as well, the Glade Lord is able to stick around and maintain full health for, well, most of the battle. Now, as we go on, you'll see the Mounted Yeomen. They do, in fact, charge into the War Dancers here, try to cap them off, as I mentioned. Peasant Bowmen keep on firing here, and over here you'll see the Fey Enchantress has been pinned down with the Prey of Anathrema. I don't think that's the best call. It was much better when the Green Knight was being pinned down and shot upon, because the Green Knight was taking a lot of damage. And you'll see here the Grail Knights were finally pulled through and are now being pushed back in. However, they're being pushed in from the front, so that's a bad call. Meanwhile, over here on this flank, again, the left flank is seen from the Wood Elves. You'll see the the peasant mob in some ways able to hold their own now. Over here, the Battle Pilgrims causing a decent amount of damage to the Eternal Guards, and the Grail Knights here doing a good amount of work to the Dryads. Unfortunately, though, they're staying in prolonged melee combat. Never a good idea for shock cavalry. You want to pull them back and again get a rear charge, or get a side charge, or even just get a front charge in to these Dryads, but some form of movement. It's really important to make sure your shock cavalry continue to, well, provide shock. Now, the Glade Lord as well, sort of standing there looking pretty, getting some shots off. It would have been a good idea to send the Glade Lord in, or the Glade Lady in, I suppose, and get some melee attacks in on these peasant bowmen. They've been standing there basically at full health for the majority of this battle, getting shots off. They're almost out of ammunition. They haven't got too many kills, one kill between the two of them, but the amount of damage they're putting out on the Glade Lord, etc., that's more of the problem. So really should have just shut them down, and it also helps that the Grail Reliquae is all the way up here, so it's not able to support these guys as leadership. So it would have been a good idea to just come in with a melee attack and shut these guys down, get them off the field, and cause a decent amount of morale damage across the Bretonnian lines as well. Now you will see, though, range fire does go down on these guys, because aiming at any of these units would lead them to be obstructed, so they do get shot at. And meanwhile, back here, the War Dancers decide to chase after these Mounted Yeomen, cap them off. The Way Watchers were actually able to hold their ground against the Mounted Yeomen, which is absolutely hilarious. But the War Dancers now come in, and they are able to chase them off. You'll see over here, finally, the Grail Knights do pull back, and they do come in with another charge, and you'll see, as soon as they do that, a lot of damage does get through. A lot of morale and physical damage does get through, so just need to rinse and repeat, do that over and over again, and a flank can be very quickly taken care of. And you'll see, meanwhile, the Green Knight, he's pushed through the front lines after replenishing a lot of his health, and has dove into these Glade Guard with Starfire shafts back here, taking a lot of damage once again. You'll see that early damage means he's not able to replenish his health significantly anymore, but good play by the Bretonnian player, sort of keeping him in the bulk of the action here, using Earthblood to keep him alive, replenish his health, and then sending him into into battle and trying to shut down some of these ranged units. So good play there. The Glade Lord, of course, able to shoot now at the Green Knight. He is isolated. The Glade Lord is back here, so able to shoot at the Green Knight now and cause a decent amount of damage that you will see happening very shortly. Over here, meanwhile, the Eternal Guard do get pushed in, and back here, some of these units that had surrendered earlier are being sent in as well to just help with this frontline engagement. Back here, the Spearmen at Arms should have been sent in to get a flanking maneuver in there, and over here you'll see the Peasant Mob being sent back in, but the rest of that left flank, as seen from the Wood Elf perspective, has given up. Now back here, I'm not sure what the Spellsinger of Life was doing there. Got a little adventurous, tried to shut down, well, managed to shut down the Peasant Bowmen, but now getting shut down by the Grail Knights themselves. Over here, you'll see now the Prey of Anathrema does go down on the Spearmen at Arms. Again, I don't think that was necessarily a good call. Maybe it would have been a better idea to drop that on one of these Grail Knights just to give the Spellsinger of Life a chance, but I'm not sure what the thinking was here. They don't even get focused down on, but that is maybe because the Way Watchers and the Glade Guard right now are on their way out. But the Prey of Anathrema could have waited. I guess it was to prevent these guys from giving chase, but there are enough units here that can, well, give chase, of course. Now the Glade Lord finally decides to fly over, and rather than engaging the Peasant Bowman, which is fair right now, not the highest priority target, decides to open fire at the Fey Enchantress. Now, there seems to be an aversion to using the Glade Lord and Hawk Riders and the types in melee combat, but if the Glade Lord had just been sent in on the Fey Enchantress in melee, the Fey Enchantress could have very quickly been taken care of. Now, on the topic of the Fey Enchantress, she does drop another chalice of potions over here, and you'll see the most unfortunate thing happens for Bretonnia. The Peasant Mob gives up at just the perfect time for the Wood Elves. These guys decide they don't want to stay and fight, so they pull back. These three units give chase, and as a result, the Chalice of Potions drops into nothingness. Very unfortunate. If the Peasant Mob had just stuck around for a little bit longer, it would have worked out quite well, actually. Now over here, Bretonnia decides to push up and mop up these units. The Green Knight flies in as well, and trying to just take care of these three units before turning around to deal with the remainder of the Wood Elf army. And these guys are severely beaten up, and a good move here by the Wood Elf player, lining them up, making them all sort of come together, trying to give as much morale support as possible by, strengthening the flanks, making sure nothing's able to come in from the rears, etc. Meanwhile, the ranged fire does continue, opening fire at the Spearmen at Arms right now, just trying to get them off the field, but you'll see these three units have very quickly been taken care of by this Bretonnian, bulk here, and now they're pushing towards what's left of the Wood Elf army. Meanwhile, the Glade Lord is taking a lot of damage. Again, just dive into melee, scare these guys off. The Grail Reliquae is all the way up front here now, and these guys have no morale support. They have no anti-large support. Now is the perfect time to dive in with some melee combat and just finish these guys off. So, just a bit of a misplay there by the Wood Elves. Meanwhile, over here, you'll see the Grail Knights giving chase, trying to make sure these guys do cap off, do get sort of driven off the field, and then pulling back, possibly trying to take care of these War Dancers with Aserai Spear. Now, over here, the Fey Enchantress does end up front here and gets swarmed completely from all sides by, what's left of the Wood Elf army, just trying to cause that extra leadership damage. Great move there. She is routing, but you want her to die, because that does cause extra morale damage, so you do want that death to go down. Meanwhile, over here, you'll see these two Grail Knights dive into the War Dancers with Aserai Spear. Not the best call. The Foot Squires should have actually been sent back there, and the Grail Knights should have been sent forward, take care of these guys that are routing, get a rear charge in there, finish them off, and then come in from the rears of this bulk. So those Grail Knights could have been better used. Meanwhile, the Glade Lord, you'll see, is now moving into position to continue opening shots off at the Green Knight, and the Green Knight is taking a decent amount of damage. Also, not really able to get any health back now. He's been capped off, and you'll see a couple more shots from the Glade Lord do come in, and ultimately they do with one more shot any second now. You can sort of tell what's about to happen. There you go, the last shot, and the Green Knight does fall. But you'll see here, the rest of the Wood Elf army is not having any of it. Despite seeing the Green Knight fall, they want out. They're all routing. They're being chased by a Grail Reliquae, which must be hilarious, some Battle Pilgrims and some Foot Squires, but they want out. These guys are forming up in some ways. This Eternal Guard unit is able to sort of come back into the fray, so that's one Wood Elf unit back, I suppose. But over here, this small contingent, this small little skirmish in the forest is actually starting to go the way of the Wood Elves. These War Dancers with Aserai Spear are a powerful unit, and you'll see this unit of Grail Knights was very quickly taken care of. This other unit of Grail Knights has been shattered already. Of course, it helps that the Glade Lord is in here as well. She, of course, is bringing in some fear, and with the Grail Reliquae all the way up here, that fear is being used to good effect. You'll see that entire Bretonnian clump there is quickly beginning to rout. Some of these units are beginning to shatter, so great job there, using these guys effectively, using the Glade Lord effectively, finally in melee, to scare these guys off. And you'll see, as a result of this mass rout here, these guys are beginning to rout as well. All the way back here, these guys have given up as well. The Peasant Bowmen out of ammo, well, one unit out of ammo, really not able to do much else anymore. So a mass rout going on among the Bretonnians, and over here you'll see the Battle Pilgrims, the Foot Squires, and the Grail Reliquae turn around, decide to focus in on this bulk instead. They assumed just a little bit too much. They thought the Wood Elves were done and dealt with. Unfortunately, this Glade Guard unit and another unit of Eternal Guard do turn around and are willing to come back into the fray. Almost never leave a unit of a ranged unit alone when it's routing. You want to chase it off the field, especially when it's something as powerful as, like the Glade Guard or the Way Watchers. You want to make sure you do shut them down, rather than assuming they're gone and then letting them come back in, especially when you don't have any cavalry left, because it would take a long time for any of these units to now go into these Glade Guard, and they would be taken care of before they're able to close that gap. So bad move there, allowing these guys to return to battle. Should have just chased them off the field. Meanwhile, though, these guys do clump down onto this unit of Eternal Guards, and they will be very quickly taken care of. Between the Battle Pilgrims and the Foot Squires, those Eternal Guard don't stand much of a chance. Up here, though, you'll see the Glade Lord giving chase to these Foot Squires, making sure they end up off the field. Again, great move there. Unfortunately, taking a lot of damage from that ranged fire. If these guys had been taken care of early on, the Glade Lord would be in such better shape. So it's a little unfortunate to see that. You see the effects of bad decisions early on, trickling through the battle, of course. Now over here, you'll see the Eternal Guard have been taken care of on their way out. But this unit of Glade Guard are back into the fray, and they are able to open fire now at this clump of units. And of course, because they are clumped up, a decent amount of damage being done to all of those units. A little bit of trickle damage, not a lot, but the morale damage is also important, let's not forget. Meanwhile, over here, the War Dancers and the Glade Lord just giving chase to these Peasant Bowmen, finally fed up, I suppose, of all that ranged fire, but these guys are out of ammo anyways. Should have shut these guys down and let these guys be, because they don't stand much of a chance anymore. But there you have it. There's the shatter from that last unit of Peasant Bowmen with arrows still in their quiver, and now these guys turn around, and now they have to respond to what's left of the Wood Elf army on this flank, let's call it, I suppose. Again, Prey of Anathrema goes down. Great move there, shooting at these guys with the reduced missile resistance as well, so trying to take care of them. They don't have shields. They're the ideal target compared to, of course, the Battle Pilgrims or even the Grail Reliquae. And you'll see as this gap does begin to close, some of these Eternal Guard do decide to shatter, but the Glade Lord is able to come in and respond. So the Glade Lord, or the Glade Lady, I suppose, is dives into these Foot Squires, because the entirety of the Wood Elf army over here has given up, so there's no reason to go all the way down there. So trying to take care of this isolated unit of Foot Squires, because of course with the Grail Reliquae there, it's not able to get any morale support to these two units yet. So trying to finish them off, use fear however possible, use any morale damage, and of course physical damage to scare these guys off the field. So there you have it. These Foot Squires and this unit of Battle Pilgrims get taken care of pretty easily. Now the Glade Lord is pulled away, trying to pull into some safety, while this unit of War Dancers is coming in to try and provide some support. Again, the Glade Lord just giving chase to this unit of Foot Squires. They are isolated, they are on their own, no support around them, so good move there, picking out targets appropriately. Meanwhile, over here you'll see the War Dancers preparing to hold their ground. There's no need for the Wood Elves to be aggressive beyond the fact that it's a tournament and they have to be aggressors, but down here, the Glade Lord is providing that aggression, taking care of this unit of Foot Squires. And really, the Bretonnian army should have pushed into the War Dancers right here, right now. With the Glade Lord busy over here, this bulk should have pushed in right away. They finally do, but for some reason it seems that they were either distracted by what's going on here or hesitant. Now it's just a little bit too late, because the Glade Lord is done dealing with these guys. These are largely taken care of. If they decide to come back in, the Glade Lord can intercept them. But now, as these guys push forward towards the War Dancers, you'll see the Prey of Anathrema does go down on the Foot Squires, holding them in place, giving the War Dancers an easier time with that initial engagement, and the Glade Lord comes in as well, dives in, does a lot of damage. Morale damage is countered, of course, a little bit with the Grail Reliquae, but not enough. There's a lot of damage going down here, a lot of tossing around going down here. and the Glade Lord is just having a great time throwing these foot squires, throwing these battle pilgrims around, and of course engaging as well with the Grail Reliquae. That is the last target for the Wood Elves now, and that's a good move. That is the least of the Wood Elf concerns. Over here you'll see the foot squires are now interested in getting back into the battle, so they do get pushed in eventually, but over here you'll see now the Glade Lord and the War Dancers holding it down, trying to finish off these foot squires before taking care of the Grail Relic, and you'll see the foot squires are starting to lose their will to fight this massive flying beast here, probably scaring them senseless. And, well, I mean, I guess the Grail Relic is there, so not actually scaring them senseless, but ultimately the sheer amount of damage going through gets them to shatter. Another poor peasant getting dropped there by the Glade Lord, and you'll see here the Grail Relic is now the focus. The peasant bowmen coming in, they're not really able to do anything. They don't have any ammunition. Glade Lord goes up there just to scare them off real quick. The War Dancers with Asterai Spear focusing on the Grail Relic. You'll see up here, peasant bowmen shatter like it's nothing. Over here, the battle pilgrims maybe should be taken care of as well, just to make sure they shatter away. And the foot squires, again, just a little scared to engage. Should have been pushed in to get a full surround on these guys and finish off these War Dancers. It would have stood a chance because the Grail Relic is able to put out a decent amount of damage, actually. Glade Lord, though, now coming back in, able to sort of pick and choose a target between these two, and you'll see decides to come in towards the Grail Relic. That is the bigger threat right now because the foot squires have largely been taken care of. Does a lot of damage to that Grail Relic, and you'll see very cheeky play here in just a second. The Glade Lord does drop in just a moment. The Prey of Anathrema on the foot squires, keeping them out of the battle, out of the picture. The Grail Relic decides to shatter, and it's a Pyrrhic victory for the Wood Elves. It's quite interesting to see a competitive battle in which one army is outclassed by the opponent, but still manages to win. We saw how much damage the Green Knight takes under magical missile fire, and ultimately Bretonnia's width caused its downfall, as some of the low-tier units stood absolutely no chance against the Wood Elf opponents, and they provided little in the form of distraction. As always, guys, make sure you subscribe to this channel for more Total War content and keep sending in your battle replays. I think it is one of the best ways to learn, and it's always nice to see some battles highlighted from the community. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you on the battlefield.